turn this thing off so it can go off in the middle.
All right, are we all ready?
Yep.
Green light is on. At 4 o'clock, we will call to order the City Council workshop for the City of Kerrville on September 26, 2023. Do we have any citizens to speak?
No, ma'am.
All right. So we will move on to the most exciting thing I think we're going to do tonight. This is wonderful. Wonderful.
I wasn't sure, Madam Mayor and members of the council, if we were going to get to this point. I was really excited when I knew I didn't have to come back and say, so I don't have much more than me. Luckily for me, I have a fantastic group that is helping us with this. And first we have Joel Cookmore from Freeze and Nichols, who is our owner's representative. He is helping us kind of walk through this process as our agent. And then Mr. Tony Battle from Berg Construction and his team, which he will introduce when he gets up.
You're treating all of them very nicely, right?
When we can, we are. Yes, ma'am. No, we are. It's gone really well so far, and we've had to have a lot of tough conversations, and between the builders, their designers, our staff, everybody has worked collectively to get us to where we are today. And so I'm proud to be a part of the project, and excited for what Tony is going to be able to show you here in a minute. I did send you all something last week, and to bring that up, we had put the city council chambers into the inclusion of the building. And as we worked through the process of value engineering and how we can make all this work within the scope of our budget, that was something that we did have to take out. I hated it, but it just didn't work. It was almost 2,000 square feet that we were able to cut out of the space to make room for that. And that was not the only thing. So we did a lot of value engineering, and we'll talk through some of those things. But I was the one who said no to that, and so I needed to stand up here, and it wasn't them. They did everything they could to try and keep all these things in there. So with that, I will turn it over, and you guys can get a look at this wonderful presentation, and I'll give it to Mr. Tony Bell.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City staff. First off, I want to say thank you for your public service. I am uniquely close to that because I serve on City Council in your neighboring Bandera. So have council meeting tonight. So I understand what it's like to be a public servant, so I appreciate that very much. We're going to jump right into, my name's Tony Battle. I am the president of Berg Construction. We're going to jump into our presentation here. We've prepared maybe a 15-minute presentation. We just kind of want to walk you through where we are in the process today. We're working through design, obviously. There's a little sneak peek of the front of the building there, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail. But without further ado, let me introduce part of our team that is here. So Terry Palmer is the lead on the design side for us. So Beatty Palmer Architects. And then here with me tonight is Michael McCall, our operations manager, and then Josh Holcomb, who is going to be the project manager out on site doing the day-to-day, obviously with our site folks as well. So without further ado, we will jump into where we are. Now this is a busy slide. Don't get too caught up in all that's on there, but there's a lot that goes into this process. So you chose the design-build approach for your delivery method, which I commend you for. It's a very collaborative approach. We're very used to doing that, and this is the process. And so where we currently are is directly in the middle, where you see DD, which is design development. So what we have, what we've been through so far is programming confirmation, which is PC, that first one, and then SD, which is schematic design. And so we've walked through that process with all the stakeholders. So we've been working very closely with your city staff, with the two chiefs, obviously with IT, with Public Works, and we've had a lot of very collaborative, long meetings to determine what this space was really going to look like, how these different spaces needed to interact with one another. We have some very good consultants on our team that are able to walk these different departments through and ask questions about, hey, how many lockers do you think you need? How much room do you need for evidence? How much room do you need for IT? What are the courts going to look like? What's the configuration? And we ask very thought-provoking questions in order to garner all the information we need to put this program together. So we've gone through all of those processes in order to determine what your building's going to look like and how it's going to function. So as we do that, we're always working through efficiency and cost value options and how we can make sure that you get the most project for the dollar. So that's kind of all these little bars and different things that we're doing as we walk through this process. So on the next slide, you can see now the layout of the building. So we've got this kind of U-shaped building, and this is like a box diagram that shows the configuration of the different departments within the building. So this is pretty high level. At the stage in design that we're currently at, we're in a lot more detail than this. We've got workstations laid out and the corridors laid out and where the restrooms are and where the break rooms are and how that all interacts with one another. So, but this just kind of gives you an idea of the square footage that we've allocated for each one of the different departments. And so I'm not going to read all these to you, but you can obviously see from courts at 10,000 feet all the way down to admin at 2,000 feet. So all the different spaces within the building have just been very carefully coordinated and collaborated to make sure that everything's working together. And your total square footage is right around 65,000 square feet. That accomplishes everything that you want to accomplish within this building. So here's the one that probably everybody's been wanting to see, which is the rendering of your facility. So I think our design team did a very nice job. It's a very handsome building. The articulation is very well thought out. So we didn't want this to look like a box. We wanted it to have some good articulation. The front entrance is very welcoming. You can see that the front side of the building here is public space. So that's where the public will be interacting the most with those parts of the building, those departments. And so we were careful to make sure that those are located up front so the public has access. And then around the back you have your gated areas, which is obviously staff parking, and then patrol vehicle parking. We don't want access to the public back there. And so for deliveries and for your police department and fire department to come in and out of the building, all of that's done around the back. So that's kind of what led us to the shape and style of the building that we have. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we wanted to use some regionally sensitive material. So we've got limestone on the front of the building. We wanted to be cognizant of your budget with that, so we don't have limestone everywhere. But we've got a lot of limestone accents because that's obviously a native material here to the hill country. And so we're trying to be very conscious of fitting in with your environment here in Kerrville. Your landscaping is just diagrammatic right now, but we tried to kind of hone that back to just be easy maintenance. The feedback that we got is, we don't want a bunch of grass. Obviously, with the year we've had this year, it doesn't grow anyway, and so we don't want to be mowing grass if we don't have to. And so it's going to be a lot of xeriscape and just easy to maintain landscape. Let me see if I can zoom out here. Okay, so this slide is a diagrammatic depiction of our schedule. And so again, it's just going to kind of show you where we are in the process. So the two gray boxes is what's been complete as of today. And we're moving into that design development, which I've already talked about. And so we'll go through the process of design development and then construction documents, and then we'll go out and procure bids for our subcontractors, and then we'll release all those scopes for work. But what I want to draw your attention to is the light blue boxes down below, and again, this is the beauty of design build. It allows us to fast track the process. And so what we have done is we have some early release packages. Because the design team is working in unison with us, they can finish the structure and the site and the utilities. Those drawings will be complete way ahead of the interior finishes and what the inside is necessarily going to look like. We can still be working on that. So we're going to get that package ready. We'll get it permitted, and that allows us to start construction sooner. So we'll be able to turn dirt before the documents are final in their final form. So that's what an early release package is. Why is that so important in today's environment? Mostly because of post-COVID procurement. So everyone's heard about, lead times for different materials post-COVID. Generators are at least 52 weeks out. Switchgear is 52 weeks out. That's the main brains of your electrical gear. And so we have to get those items released very soon. So we're going to be working through, we're actually talking to trade partners of ours that are industry experts that have the connections with those manufacturers, so we can get an early release, an early procurement, which will probably come back to council at some point, but we will want to release our generators and our gear, maybe our air handler units, so that we can get those on order so that we have them when we need them to facilitate our construction schedule. So so those are the fast track packages that you can see there that we're going to release, one for MEP and then the front end trades. And then our anticipated start for construction is sometime in December. And so we'd like to be able to turn dirt in December. Programming is complete, schematic design is complete. I'm looking at the bottom left-hand box. Design development should be complete in November. Construction documents should be complete in February. But again, we're going to start construction in December. That's the beauty of that fast track that I was talking about. And then our anticipated project completion is sometime in Q2 of 25. And so we don't have that nailed down just yet because we're still working through all the parts and pieces of this building and exactly what it's going to look like. And so our 500 activity schedule is still growing, and we're manipulating that as best we can, but that's our target for completion of the project. So the construction type, I want to just spend a moment talking about the construction type. We have chosen tilt wall construction. So tilt up or tilt wall is probably a term that you're familiar with. That's for the envelope of the building. We analyzed all different systems, from precast, cast in place, structural steel with masonry infill, structural steel with cold form metal framing infill, which is a conventional system. But the requirements of a public safety building are that it needs to be hardened, right? We want to make sure that it's a very secure facility. So that's inherent in tilt-up because you've got 8.5-inch panels, 7.5-inch panels that are going to be cast on the slab. They're going to be tilted up. We were a little concerned about the look of tilt-up because we didn't want it to look like a big box store. And so that's where our design partners were very creative to create some of that articulation. And we've built multiple tilt wall projects. If you're familiar with the rec center up in New Braunfels, it's called Das Rec. It's a really good one to look at. If you Google search that particular project, it's a tilt wall project, and you'd never know it was a tilt wall project. And so same thing here. We're going to clad it with the masonry, have that articulation, have some really nice texture coat colors on the outside, add these awnings, and it'll be the most efficient construction type. And our superintendents have looked at it for constructability, and it's the fastest, most efficient way to build this building. And generally, we build a lot of public safety buildings all throughout the state, and this is either this or structural steel with masonry, low-bearing masonry are the two types that we use the most for public safety facilities. So you're very much in the wheelhouse in terms of construction type. And then the building exteriors, which we talked a little bit about, the limestone veneer and kind of being regionally sensitive to the look and the feel of the exterior of the building. So let's talk about budget just real quick. The design build budget right now is sitting around $37.5. And then the owner budget, which we're calling kind of below the line items, which is FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, moving costs, inspections and testing, your land purchase that already took place, your utility relocations that work's already been completed, your IT equipment for this project, and also some backbone IT equipment for the city of Kerrville. So all that is sitting under your 45 million. Now, it wasn't an easy task to get there. There was a lot of work that went into that. And when we were first hired, we thought that design build budget was a little bit bigger. We thought it was around 40. And so we were kind of working towards that target. But it's our responsibility, as well as Joel with Friesen Nichols, to look at your entire budget and make sure that we're being good stewards of your entire budget. And so we really kind of, in the last month, have honed in on that to make sure that all the different things that you need to purchase to make this building function are accounted for in the budget. So that's what we did. And when we did that, we realized that we needed to cut back on the construction a little bit. And so that's where we went through a pretty extensive cost value options approach. And so the next slide, I'm just going to talk to you about some of those cost value options. And so when we talk about cost value options, it's very much a conversation of needs versus wants. So obviously the needs are the things that everybody has to have, and then there's some wants and desires. And so we tried to focus just on the wants and cut those out so that the building still functions in the way it needs to. So there's an auxiliary storage building in the back that Chief McCall would have loved to have, but again, it was a want. And so we have pulled that out of the project. It's about a $500,000 building. Covered parking, originally we contemplated Avideck covered parking, so very similar to the kind of covered parking you would see at a car lot. It's a very nice covered parking, and we had considered it for everything, for staff, for patrol vehicles, everywhere. It's a want, again, so we've carved that piece out as about $800,000. There was a Sally port that we thought might not be necessary. That's been carved out. The masonry security fencing, we were going to have some masonry limestone security fencing. Instead, we're contemplating now just a metal fencing. It'd still be just as secure, but the look's just slightly different. It'll still function. That saved us about $200,000. The landscape package, we had a very robust landscape package, and we've kind of pared that down, which I think fits with some of your other landscape around your other buildings. And so that saved us about $70,000. And then there was a flagstone entryway, which would have been really nice, but we think we can accomplish, again, a very functional entryway with either plain broom finished concrete or maybe a stained concrete or something that we can still get the same look and feel. And so that all told, when we removed those items, got us down to that $37 million and got us in budget. Now, there's a reason for us attacking these particular items. I want to spend a minute talking about that. So we were very strategic in coming up with items that we could pull out that could easily be put back in. And so if you notice, all of these items are they're kind of standalone. We can add covered parking back in. We can add the storage building back in. The masonry fencing, that's something that's going to be done at the end. We could change that. Even the flagstone entry, we could change that. Landscaping's toward the end. So if the market is kind to us, if we have a windfall, if we budgeted things that are maybe slightly higher, and when we put it out for bid, it's a very aggressive bid, and from the subcontractors, and we get some more aggressive pricing, then we'll know and we'll be able to add these back in. So it's what we call in the construction and design industry an alternate. And so we'll have it there on the drawings as an alternate. We'll get it priced at bid time, and if everything works out, we'll add it back in. And also, we will carry contingency throughout construction, and if we don't need that contingency, that's a very open book and transparent process. And if we don't need that contingency towards the end, then we will obviously give that contingency back to you, and we can add some of these items back in. All that money is ultimately yours to spend if we don't need it for some mishap throughout construction that nobody could have anticipated. So that's what it's there for.
Well, let me ask you, do you have, are these listed in order of priority that you would choose to put those back in?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No, these are just a listing. I think that's probably the next step is to go through and prioritize those. But we will have pricing for all of these so that in a priority order they can be added back in of your choosing.
For someone who doesn't know, what is a Sally port?
So
That's for Chief McCall.
Yeah, it's for Chief McCall.
So
And so if
it's-
the design team wants to, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll just go.
it's kind of a stopping off point for PD. They're gonna have, if they've gotta come in, they've gotta do some stuff with the vehicles, they've gotta drop things off, they've got
It's a
folks.
secure location we can pull a vehicle into, close the doors down, and remove a prisoner from without exposing them to the outside.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
So there's other ways to do that. Probably 50% of our public safety facilities have a sally port. It's not a necessity. It's a relatively inexpensive item. So if Chief McCall feels like, it's a priority, then maybe we can get that brought back into the project later. So that concludes my presentation. We will open it up to y'all for questions. Feel free to ask me questions, plus any of the team that we have here, any questions that you might have.
I noticed that there doesn't appear to be a memorial area in this drawing. Are we still going to have an area for a memorial?
So, yes, ma'am, we are. If we go, let's see. You go to that section right there. We had asked the team to put in about a 75 by 75 foot section.
Right.
And that space is kind of in that area in front of where it says Kerrville, what does it say? Public Safety Facility, right in there. We didn't want to be presumptive on what the design would look like because that's not going to be done by Byrne. That's going to be done by the group that's doing it philanthropically.
Okay.
And so we don't know what that looks like yet.
Okay.
And I had been reluctant to you all had to be the first people to see this. And those folks are chomping at the bit because they're really excited. They're doing fundraising for it, and it's an amazing thing. And they're trying to raise upwards of $500,000 to put an installation in. But until we had this discussion, I didn't want us to get them going and know we had to pull back and go in a different direction. So now we'll be able to kind of send this over to them and say, here's your space, here's what you have to work with, and they can start their fundraising campaign. So we'll be in there, and I think that will come to you as an aside. The team has worked with them, talked to them about what their wishes are, so we kind of have the logistics of, electrical, would there be a water feature? We thought it was prudent not to have one, given what's going on. But those logistics will be accounted for, and so I think as we move through in that process, we'll have a better grasp on what that's going to look like for them when they finalize what their design would be. Make sure it fits within the confines of what we have as a space, and then we'll move through that process. We'll look to our design build team to help us as we work through that process. Okay?
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say, I just appreciate all the work that has gone into bringing this into the budget. So that had to be done, and I know there's been a lot of time and a lot of consideration spent on that. And to all of you, I want to say thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that, and I will give all of the credit to my team because I get the privilege of standing up here to present it, but they did all the hard work. So that's for sure.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
When's the next time we're gonna get another report? What are next steps in terms of what council's gonna get next?
So, kind of like last time, we were hopeful that we would be in front of you at the meeting on the 12th, and then we weren't quite there, so the 24th. So we'll work as quickly as we all can to get to that design development phase, and we'll have to bring a contract back to y'all for early release package, so that's not currently included. Everything we've done so far has been pre-construction services, and so we're gonna have to bring an amendment to that contract back for the early release. And so that'll probably be around the same time as we would have design development. So that'll be great because then we'll be a little bit closer to, hey, those prices it's less gray in terms of how conservative they are with that approach, and then and helps us with our schedule. So we should be done with that in November. So hopefully November or the first meeting in December, something like that.
You come back to us with that contract? and the supplemental?
Yeah, I think we can come back, well, I mean, it'll be updates, I'll update you as many times as you want, but,
I'm just curious on what's the next step that's required for us to take, and
take action.
you know, these updates are good. I mean, I think that everybody, we all like to see it. I think you all like to be proud of what's been done, and I think the public is interested in knowing what's going on too. So just curious on, not in terms of anything like that we need, that I'm asking that we need to get done, but
Yeah.
is there gonna be something else that's gonna be presented and what that timeline's gonna look like? But I think you've given me a good outlook to what that might be.
And we can do, I mean, easily enough, we can do, because we have 2 design-build projects that are both kind of going through the iterations now. We can start just doing monthly updates on both of those projects. And when we have items for you to vote on, then we'll obviously have those in front of you. But I think the early work package and amendments to the contract, if they're gonna start construction, you know, in December, you'll see the amended contracts before then. So we're already talking about it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck out in Bandera.
Thank you.
Well, this is just exciting and what we've been waiting for, so it's great.
I was gonna highlight Tara Bushnell from EGRA is here, and she's been a tremendous help to me, trying to figure out how we can do our low-impact designs and fit those in, and ways that we can get that done. So she has been a tremendous help to us as well as we're working through it.
Thank you, Tara. We appreciate it. All right, that's it?
That's it.
All right,
Unless you have any more
wonderful.
questions.
All right, council, we are ready for executive session then. And the motion would be for executive session for 551.071 and 551.087 for Light Creek and Windridge. Do we have a second?
Second.
And do we have a unanimous vote? All raise your right hands, please. And we do. So at 4:27, we will adjourn upstairs for executive session. Again, thank all of you for being here. We should have probably had you come to the podium just to talk to us for being here, but thank you all. We certainly appreciate everything that you've done and all the time and effort. Appreciate it.
Sharp looking building.
Thank you.